Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Live from Region number 2. Just go ahead and share the live. We had some technical difficulties, hence the late start, but I see a number of persons have been waiting on me. Tiffany Daniels, good night, all the way from the Northwest region. Good night to the folks from Northwest. Lily Arthur, always here. Tim Ford, and Web, good night. Good night. No sound. I hope that you're getting the song now. I hope that you're getting the song now. Glendon Tony, watching all the way from Maryland. Good night to you. Good night to all the folks that are now coming in. Please go ahead and share the live. We got a number of subtopics. Of course, the topic tonight is an emerging apartheid state. And you know the PPP doesn't like that term, the term apartheid. So just go ahead and share the live. Okay, Jason Adams, good night to you. Loud and clear. All right, got you. Selena Fraser, good night. Listening from Canada. Canada. All right. Folks from the UK. Is it Ayub? No. The name just disappeared. All right, folks coming in from UK, Bartika in the house, Judith David, Bartika in the house tonight. Folks, the topic tonight is an emerging apartheid state, and of course we're talking about Guyana, not South Africa. You would know that the term would have been derived from what was taking place in South Africa from, I believe it was the early 1900s, 1940s, around 1948. So, well, it's the mid 1900s. So it's around 1948 all the way up to around 1990. So the term apartheid state is actually, the term comes from, it's an African word, and it means to be apart, and it would have been derived from South Africa and Southwest Africa, now known as Namibia, I believe, where you had a majority of Africans being ruled and discriminated against by the whites or non-blacks, who were the minority, and they used the arms of the state, they used the law, legislated laws, etc., to control the people of Africa and to discriminate against them. Good night, Miss Aziz. Always happy to see you. Good night to you, Miss Aziz, all the way from Berbice. And people like Miss Aziz are staunch supporters of the PNCR, regardless to whether we're in government or out of government. And people might like Miss Aziz, you can tell from the name, she's Muslim. And we'll have a lot of discussions surrounding the races, the religions in Guyana, the issue that has been coming forward over the last couple of days. They would have arrested the mayor, the controversies surrounding that. So we want to touch on that in this apartheid state. Good night to you, Mavis Henry. I see a number of folks all the way from Berbice. I'm seeing folks from in Latem. Go ahead and share the live. We'll begin in a few minutes. We have a number of issues. I see Faye Brown, Ms. Brown saying that is nothing is emerging. That what it is. Okay, I got you, Miss Faye Brown. Miss Faye Brown got a really long name. Is it Joel Mondley? I'm okay. Miss Brown, you got a very long name. I should call you Miss Brown. Good night to you, Miss Brown. Good night to all the folks. Just share the live to your family, to your friends. Share it on your WhatsApp groups, your Facebook pages. Um, we got, I see a number of people coming in, and we'll begin shortly. We had some technical difficulties, still have some, but we're working on it. We're working to get it fixed. We had no sound in the beginning, so I see the sound has been resolved. So I was telling you about explaining about, for the folks that are not familiar with the term, it's a South African term. It came from South Africa and Southwest Africa, now Namibia, from around 1948 to sometime in the 90s, where you had the white folks there using the arm of the state, using the laws, and creating the conditions for discrimination, disparity in the distribution of resources in that country. And we know the African countries are very rich in minerals, rich in resources, but for some reason, those countries are still not fully developed up until today. And it is partially due to that system that existed there, where the rich countries would have extracted the resources to enrich themselves and leave those African countries in a poor and broken state. And so today they are still behind, now trying to catch up. And so it mirrors what is happening here in Guyana and what has been happening over a very long time. And so I want to agree with Miss Brown that, some folks believe that we are in an apartheid state. It might be, it might have evolved from the apartheid state of West Africa, but essentially what we're seeing here is an apartheid state. When you look at how the police is operating under this PPP government, when you look at how the DPP has been operating under this PPP government, when you look at the court system generally, how it has been operating, when you look at the distribution and award of contracts in this country, when you look at the distribution of grants, flood relief, when you look generally at how the country is being run, when you look at the efforts being made by the state and arms of the state to silence freedom of speech, the stymie freedom of speech in this country, then certainly one would agree that we're either an emerging apartheid state, as I would have said earlier, or as some people believe that we're already an apartheid state, this dear land of ours. And so that is the center of our discussion tonight. We're having a little late start tonight and still having some technical difficulties, but I want to give you guys an opportunity. You can you can text me, or you can make your comments, and I can make some reference to it because I'm seeing your comments in the comments column. And what are your thoughts basically on the emerging apartheid state, or the existing apartheid state that we have become? This country, this small country of only 750 or 780,000 people, with a wealth of resources and a diverse set of people, religiously, culturally. What are your thoughts? what are your thoughts about this country and where we're heading? And especially in the context of us having oil, having newfound wealth, billions upon billions coming in, with a government that is now trying to downplay it and awarding and distributing the resources of the country in a very partial manner and in a manner which will not serve all of the people of this country. And so I don't know if my operator is ready and if he can bring up the first slide. I know we're still having some technical difficulties, so if you can just bear with me for a few moments. But operator, when you're ready, you can indicate by pulling up the first slide. And so we want to have a discussion on the events that would have transpired in the last few days surrounding the mayor of Georgetown. Georgetown being the biggest base for the PNCR and by extension APNU and APNU AFC, the coalition now in opposition. It is our strongest base, and it is the issues are surrounding the first citizen of the town, no other than the mayor of Georgetown, and there are clearly moves being made to in an attempt to embarrass the mayor. We know that local government elections were scheduled for the 13th of March, and we were supposed to have nominations day and a series of activities. And so it is not by accident that these things are emerging. It is not by accident you're hearing the calls from ministers for the mayor to resign. It's not by accident that you're seeing the private sector commission, not the private sector, but the private sector commission, who is supposed to be the body looking out for the interests of all businesses in the country and in the capital. And they've taken a position. They finally found their voices. They finally found their voice after so much that has been happening in this country over the last 2 years. So much has been happening. No condemnation whatsoever, no statement whatsoever. You had incidents allegedly involving Minister Dharamlal. You had one on social media. It was alleged that he had his or some pictures of his private parts were sent to a young lady. There was no condemnation, nothing from the private sector, nothing from the religious organizations, nothing coming from the four that signed that statement from the Muslim organization. And I saw Natasha Singh Lewis making reference to it and to those four last night on a program. I believe it was on Coretta's program, Coretta McDonald's program, where she was alleging that she had proof and she had information on the four that might not, but that if she caused it to be exposed, if she had caused it to be exposed, then they would be seen in a different light, not as Muslim leaders, not in keeping with the values of Muslim leaders. But those are the four that signed, that scribbled, so that people cannot, they scribbled in a way that persons cannot recognize who they are. But fellow Muslims know who they are and know of their attempts to undermine the APNU AFC when they were in government and undermine our efforts to engage the Muslim community. Those are the persons that have now found their voices in an attempt to condemn and chastise the mayor. The mayor, the young mayor, young East Indian mayor, young Pandit, who has been going foot to foot with the people of Georgetown, whether through rains, floods, whatever the case is. He's always there, always willing to represent his people, always willing to represent. And so these folks, these PPP hacks, these PPP affiliates are attacking the mayor. You know, Miss Aziz, I saw her on the live. She's still on the live. Miss Aziz from Berbice, I believe her butcher shop was burned down. It is not easy. It is not easy to support the PNCR when you're East Indian. And you know, I want to tackle this head on. When you speak, or when we speak about racism in this country, we're labeled as racist. I've said it time and time again. I cannot be labeled as a racist. I cannot be labeled as a racist. My mother is East Indian. I grew up partially in an East Indian home. My favorite foods are still those that are prepared on a daily basis in East Indian homes. And so I understand what it means to be East Indian. I also understand what it means to be Afro-Guyanese. And so I understand what it means to be discriminated against. You know, I met with some diplomats just recently, and we were having a light chat, and I explained to them that while I was one of the top students graduating as a mechanical engineer, it was back in 2009, I would have applied to an organization, a really big organization, which we all knew that, you know, pays well for young engineers. And I graduated with a distinction in mechanical engineering, right at the top of my class with a few others. I believe there were 3 persons that had distinction in that year, and I was denied employment. The person who was employed did not even graduate at that time, and I'm not casting any shadows on him. I believe that he was brilliant enough. He was doing mechanical engineering. I don't know whatever were his difficulties, but he had some outstanding courses at that time. And you had a young Afro, well, I'm perceived to be Afro, my mother is Indian, but whatever you perceive me to be, I was placed, denied that employment. I see it as being denied that employment, and that fellow was employed, and my classmates can bear witness to that. And it wasn't me alone. There were others, but that is how the state works. That is how it operates. So I understand. My reason for getting into politics was to fight this very system. I grew up in a mixed home, and I scorned what was happening. Here in Region 2, you, as a young boy, would have walked into the RDC, other places, and when I looked at the balance in those organizations, I didn't like it. When I looked at the opportunities being given to young people, I didn't like what I saw. And so I sought to get into politics. I thought that getting involved in politics, and I saw the PNC as a home, as a party with values, as a party that stands for all Guyanese, and I decided to join the PNC. Of course, it was the PPP in power. Majority of my life, um, growing up, they were in power, and I resented the racism, resented the discrimination then. And so I decided to get into politics to fight exactly what is happening now. So I must speak on this topic. And people like Ms. Aziz and others know fully well and understand what it means to be of East Indian background and support the PNC. They know of the struggles. They know of the victimization. It is not easy when you're East Indian to support the opposition. The PPP believe that they have that birthright, that title, that power over East Indians in this country. And so they must support only the PPP. And if they support another party, they must be condemned, they must be victimized, they must be chastised, they must be brought in front of the courts, the rights must be violated. That is how the PPP operates. You didn't see any of that happening over the last 5 years. If it did, and it was brought to the attention of the administration, it was dealt with condignly. That is why the police force operated in a more professional manner. The APNU AFC administration had a no-nonsense policy towards discrimination, towards certain things. And so it is heart-wrenching when you look at what is happening, what has happened over the last couple of days and over the last 2.5 years since this PPP took office. They sent home over 2,000 Afro-Guyanese and Indo-Guyanese who were perceived to be APNU AFC supporters. On screen, you're seeing the mayor of Georgetown. He's an East Indian Guyanese or Indo-Guyanese, along with Sherrod Duncan, Ganesh Maipal. A lot of Indo-Guyanese support the PNC and support the APNU AFC, but they're afraid of exactly what is happening here, exactly what we see happening to the mayor. And the mayor is someone of stature. He's the first citizen of Georgetown. He's the first citizen of Georgetown. And if it can be done to the mayor, and this is the message that they are sending here, this is the message that they are sending here, that their arm is locked, they are willing to use the arm of the state, those arms that can be used to violate the rights, violate your constitutional rights, to gag you, to prevent you from speaking out, to trample on you, and especially if you are a supporter of the APNU AFC, and more so if you are an Indo-Guyanese supporter of the PNCR, it burns them. You know, the PNC is not supposed to have Indo-Guyanese supporters or persons promoted by the PNCR. When we would have appointed this mayor, all sorts of things, nasty things they had to say about him. And they continue to say while they were in opposition and now they're in government. This mayor would have reached out to them from the outset. He would have reached out to them. He tried to reach out to Ali. He tried to reach out to Edge Hill. He tried to reach out to Dharmlal, who is the local government minister, so that there can be consultation in this one Guyana. Ali goes on and preaches about one Guyana. But when you look at his actions, it is just, he just preaches this one Guyana and takes photos for the photo opportunity. But there is no one Guyana in what Ali and his government has been doing over the last 2.5 years. Now, the mayor and operator, if you can pull up the slide, the mayor, the mayor, for the folks that might not understand the issue, Georgetown is governed by a mayor and town council who has the legal right to 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 manage the affairs of Georgetown. They are the local governance, the local government. They were elected by the people of Georgetown to manage the affairs of Georgetown. So this is the affairs of the people of Georgetown. Now on screen, you see the mayor engaging vendors in the wee hours of the night. He could have stayed with his family. He could have stayed in his bed, but he chose to go out there to deal with this problem, along with the leader of the opposition, out there supporting the man, giving support to the people. This is New Market Street. New Market Street. Now, New Market Street does not fall under the purview of the central government, but it falls under the direct control of the mayor and town council. And so there is a vending problem. This is not a new problem. If we go back to the records way back in 2011, under the PPP government, you would have seen that they bulldozed these very vendors, or maybe different vendors before. But people are vending because there is a reason for it. There is a reason why these people are vending out there. There aren't enough job opportunities out there. And these people choose vending so that they can have a livelihood, they can support their families, they can support themselves. That is why they're out there. These are mostly women, single mothers, single parents. Where is the Minister of Human Services? Where is her condemnation? Where is the condemnation from all the different organizations? Is this the one Guyana? Is this the one Guyana that Irfan Ali is talking about? So the government, after refusing to consult with the mayor, after he has been reaching out, writing, he wrote, even the Minister of Sports, who is doing nothing, by the way, but rejected the mayor's letter by sending it back. So they want nothing to do with the mayor. Absolutely nothing to do with the mayor. They don't provide the funding for the mayor and town council. And so they keep Georgetown in a terrible state. You would recall when APNU AFC was in government, we gave the kind of support to the mayor and town council. The streets of Georgetown were kept clean. There was law and order. There was order at the bus stops. We were emerging as a modern democratic state. Our capital city was moving back to that state which it was so many decades before the PPP came to government. But from 2020, we see a total reversal. And the government has signaled their intention from the onset that they will not work with this mayor, they will not cooperate with the APNU AFC. When they were in opposition, they refused to go to any meetings. Their councillors, Jagdeo and others, ordered them not to attend these meetings. Their general secretary and leader, Jagdeo, ordered them not to attend local government meetings. So they refused to cooperate while they were in opposition. And now they refuse to cooperate while they're in government. So the rights, the mayor and town council are well within their right. If we can go back to that street, New Market Street, it falls under the purview of the mayor and town council. And so there is a vending issue there, and the mayor attempted to consult with the government after they would have issued an order, consult with them, letting them know that this falls under the purview of the township. And so they will deal with it. You cannot go and remove arbitrarily, just remove persons and push them out of their livelihood. These people are willing to move. They are willing to move. If only if they could find some place where they can ply their trade and make the same amount of money so that they can support their families. And these are Afro-Guyanese. Mostly, the majority of them are Afro-Guyanese. And so the mayor became incensed when they moved in with their equipment and began to demolish and pull away these stalls, disrespecting the mayor, disrespecting the town council, and disrespecting the people who would have elected the mayor and town council to manage their affairs. And so the mayor asked the question, why is it that Irfan Ali does not want to consult with him? Why is it that he's bullying, using this kind of bully tactics on mostly Afro-Guyanese and women vendors? And so he asked that question. Is it because I am an East Indian and the president is Muslim? What is the harm in that? You know, I would like to see them sent to arrest me if I asked that question. I thought we had freedom of speech. The Constitution allows freedom of speech, freedom of expression. But the state wants to abuse the law, use whatever provision to oppress, to violate the rights of members of the opposition. And any person that speaks up against what is, or speaks out against what is happening in this emerging apartheid state called Guyana. You know, they don't want to hear apartheid. They don't want to hear apartheid. And whenever we speak out about these things, they run about the place and they do some little thing and post it all over the media to say, oh, we care about Afro-Guyanese and we care about East Indian, Indo-Guyanese that are supporters of APNU. It shouldn't take the public pressure for the government to do what is right, to do what they claim they are supposed to be doing, this one Guyana. And so because of that statement, they arrested the mayor. Well, they attempted to arrest the mayor and embarrass the mayor while they had these thugs going out to protest. Never see them protesting before. You had the various private sector bodies, Region 3 private sector, and the Georgetown chambers, all of them coming out there to chastise the mayor on this statement. But when you look at what Irfan Ali is doing, you must look at the award of contracts, etc. You see it is exactly what the mayor is talking about, exactly what the mayor and others are talking about. They should produce the names of all the contractors that got contracts over the last 2.5 years. But we'll come to that. That is another topic for discussion later in this program. And so they moved in at City Hall to arrest the mayor. They didn't make any arrests for paper shards being executed just not far from the residence of the president on Main Street, where you had all the cameras They didn't make any arrests. They didn't arrest Charandas. For all we know, he might still be on the job after abusing that Indian woman. And then Ali comes and say, well, you know, I talked with Charandas. I had a talk with him, and he's agreed to resign. We begging Charandas. We begging him. We didn't arrest him. We didn't arrest him. You had the police arresting that lawyer who asked her client, Tamika Clark, not to speak, to exercise his constitutional right, and she was wrongfully arrested. And when they tried, when she tried to file criminal charges against the police, what happened? The DPP threw out those charges. And so the lawlessness in this country can continue. And that is what happens when you have an apartheid state. These are elements of an apartheid state. Abuse of state power, abuse of the arms of government, abuse of the court system and the judiciary, abuse of the police force. And so they went to City Hall to arrest him, and vendors, you know, they thought that they were doing something bad to the mayor. But they actually revved up support. And if they weren't careful, the entire Georgetown could have been out there. And so members of the opposition and supporters, vendors, all came out to support the mayor, to support him. Even Muslim persons, they claim that he made this so egregious comment against Muslims by asking if because he's a Hindu and Ali is a Muslim. Even a Muslim brother came out. Operator, if you have that slide, if you can locate that slide. Even a Muslim leader came out and hugged the mayor and showed his support. And I say kudos to that individual. You know, all of us aren't brave as he was to come out, or he is. Yes, Muslim brother along with the leader of the opposition, they hugged the mayor. And I say kudos to this gentleman. Kudos to this gentleman. He has been following the true teachings of Islam. Even if you were hurt by that statement, Islam teaches us to forgive. And so we don't come out lashing out after the mayor apologized. Frankly speaking, I don't even know why he even had to apologize. But you don't come out bashing the mayor after he would have apologized. You give the brother some support. But these are all PPP hacks sent for one purpose. These are persons who obviously are benefiting and have benefited from the government. And so because the government controls the resources, they have to be like little minions, doing whatever the government says. And so the mayor was in court today. If you can show the slide, operator. The mayor was in court today, and they had him behind bars as if he was a common criminal, you know, a thief or a murderer. That is a disrespect for an Indo-Guyanese who does not support the PPP, a prominent Indo-Guyanese, and you have him behind bars. You have him behind bars along with the member of parliament, Sherrod Duncan. God knows what Sherrod even did to be behind bars. I guess his program is the problem. But anybody who speaks out, whether you're Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, this is what they do to you. But we will continue to fight. We will continue to stand up. We will continue to have our voices heard against this emerging apartheid state. And you know the funny thing that occurred today? The prosecution went before the magistrate, the chief magistrate, and when asked what are the reasons for bringing these charges, they could not have answered. They could not have answered what were the reasons. The prosecutor was dumbfounded. Maybe he didn't even want to prosecute, but because of the directives by the government, he had to do it. So I understand police officers who are looking, and I know you look at these programs and you give us support. You have got to begin to resist these unlawful acts. Police officers, you have got to begin to resist the state. You have to begin to resist these illegal orders coming down from, even if it means it's coming from the president. Once it is illegal, nobody can give you an illegal order. And you have got to begin to resist these attempts. And so they had him about 45 minutes there waiting to be told the case had to be adjourned and then called again for them to hear the reasons why. And the reasons are still laughable. The reasons are still laughable because he asked the question. The prosecutor actually read that statement in court. The mayor said, ask on the television on a user computer device to incite racism, and when asked what was the act, he read what the mayor said. Ask Irfan Ali if it's because he's a Hindu and he's a Muslim, that is why this thing is happening. That is his right. Whether you agree with it or not, that is his right. We can disagree with him here. We can disagree with him and say, this was an insensitive thing to say, whatever. Personally, I don't disagree with him. And as a party, we stand behind our mayor. And we will continue to give him the support he deserves. People have got to begin to stand up against this nonsense that is occurring in this country. And I was thinking today, this is the exact thing that got them out of government. This is the identical thing that got them out of government. It's two things. This kind of police state, and it's actually three. We can go on to name a few others. But it is the police state, if you would recall. It is the discrimination, and it is the corruption. Three major things that got the PPP out of government. Violation of people's rights, the police state that they created. Discrimination played a great role in it, and corruption. They don't know how to be honest, politicians. They don't know how to be honest. They're always corrupt, and they corrupt the entire country whenever they are in government. They corrupt the police force, they corrupt the public sector, they corrupt even the private sector. We see the private sector commission coming out in support of the government. And so we as Guyanese, whether you're Afro-Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese, Indigenous Guyanese, whatever you are, whatever you identify yourself with, whichever grouping you identify yourself with, you've got to begin to stand up, sound your voices against this discrimination, against this apartheid state that is emerging in this country. We've got to stand up, or it will consume all of us. At some point in time, these fellas will feel that they're so powerful and they have such control that everybody will be afraid to speak. Anybody. Because if you can do this to the sitting mayor of Georgetown on such frivolous charges, who's next? Who is next? And so tonight I thought that a major part of this program I would dedicate to dealing with this issue. There are so many other issues I had lined up tonight, but I wanted to deal with this. Wanted to deal specifically with this problem that we're seeing. As I said earlier, I started my political career to fight exactly what is happening here. And I will continue to fight and continue to urge all Guyanese to stand up. My Indo-Guyanese brothers and sisters, you too have to stand up. You too have to show your solidarity. You too have to sound your voices. Because at some point in time, it will reach to your doorstep. It is only a matter of time. We want to see peace, love, and unity in this country. We must come together as one people, one nation, aiming for one destiny. But the way how this administration is operating currently, it seems as though there are different destinies for different people in this country. And I will stand up, and my party will stand against all levels of discrimination, all levels of violation of people's rights, violations of the Constitution, any disparity in the distribution of resources of this country. We will stand up against it. We don't mind if they want to label us as racist and whatever. Once you stand up to people, they always try to find all sorts of names for you. We have to come together as a country to say no to this type of behavior. And it doesn't matter who is in government. If APNU or when APNU AFC gets back into government and you believe that we are going off track, then you stand up against us, stand up against whoever is condoning that act or whoever are the perpetrators. You stand up against people like that. You know, we just gotta love this fella, this Muslim leader for standing up for all Muslims, even those of you who are afraid to stand up. I believe that the time has come now. Look, Guyana is at a pivotal moment. It is at a pivotal moment in our history. And it's either we move together as one or we begin to separate and we begin to have a class system emerging in this apartheid state. A class system where a few, and we're already seeing it, only a few benefit from this government. Operator, if we can go to, I want to deal with, we only have a few more minutes. And so I want to touch on, well, this slide is from Minister Ben. He came out and made several statements which are of no consequence. I believe Ben is a useless minister. He does nothing. I don't know what exactly he does, because when you look at the state of the police force, I believe the leader of the opposition asked him just recently in Parliament, you know, these billions that were spent, where have they gone? What reforms have taken place in the police force? But, you know, he could have said nothing, absolutely nothing in Parliament just recently. And so I will come back to Ben. If we can move to, I'm trying to find the slide with the contract, award of contracts, because we're dealing with the emerging apartheid state. Folks, just bear with me. I have a number of documents prepared, but you know, well, this was a statement from the vendors, and it says all they were asking is that, you know, the government can relocate them. They want to sit down and talk. They want to sit down and talk. It is Christmas time. A few days from Christmas, people are trying to earn a little so that they can buy that little present for the little daughter, the little son, so that they can put a little bit of something new on the table, something that you don't, people wait until Christmas time all year, they can't afford it, but people throw their belly out to put something extra on the table so that they can please their family in this joyous season. But now they move and try to bulldoze these people. All they're asking for is to sit down and talk and to work out something. Operative, you can pull out that slide, how they dealt with the people at Monrepo. And this is what we're talking about. There is no one Guyana. Look, the people of Monrepo, and I cannot, look, I don't want to pronounce, I don't have all the facts on why they would have done what they did to destroy stalls that were being constructed in this new market. These vendors actually in Monrepo, and this is a PPP stronghold. They destroyed stalls that were being constructed. Did we see anyone get arrested? Was any vendor arrested as they did to the mayor? Just let that sink in. These folks illegally destroyed government property, break up stalls. They're allowed to do that. Nobody was arrested. Not one vendor was arrested, much less charged and put before the court. But you arrest the mayor of Georgetown for making a statement. And these people physically break down stalls, go on a rampage because they were displeased with their placement. They didn't like where the government was putting them, who getting with stall or whatever. So you're displeased and you break the stalls down. Because you know why they can do that? You know why. Both you and I know why. It is a PPP stronghold. And this is how the PPP deal with one set of people. And we have to be honest. We have to be honest. I told you from the beginning, my mother is East Indian. I live in a mixed family. I spent a lot of years growing up in an Indo-Guyanese family. I understand what it means to be Indo and what it means to be Afro. I cannot be called out for it. And so instead of charges being instituted, instead of any condemnation from anybody, from the private sector, from the ministers, we see all of them on their pages condemning New Branch for some statement. But there you have it, persons, vendors, supporters of the PPP, breaking down stalls while they're being constructed. And what happens? The minister calls them to a nice, whether it's boardroom, it looks like it's boardroom, his boardroom, with nice AC and everything. And you sit down and you have a chat and you resolve the matter. You see here, Nigel says on his page, matters resolved with vendors of Monrepo Market. There were miscommunication issues that had to be dealt with. But you refuse to communicate with the vendors of New Market Street. You refuse to communicate and to consult with the mayor of Georgetown, though he has been asking for the last 2 years for consultation. He is on record asking for consultation. But you refuse to do that. And what action did they take? What action did they take? They moved to bulldoze the people down. They moved to bulldoze single mothers, Afro-Guyanese, mostly Afro-Guyanese. They bulldozed them down. And you see, the discrimination and the treatment of the mayor didn't end there. And this is what I'm talking about, this fallacy of one Guyana and this emerging apartheid state and these two Guyanas. The government now instructs the GDF to dismiss the mayor. The mayor is a reserve staff sergeant. He's been there for a number of years. And they are now attempting to illegally dismiss the mayor. So the victimization didn't end with the arrest and the court matter. It has now extended to his service in the army and whatever income is derived from that service. Now, I believe the law is very clear that you have to be someone, you have to be called out as a soldier, and anything that occurs at that point, you can be disciplined. But you first, the rules for natural justice, the laws of this country, and the standing operating procedures of the defense force allows you to be heard. That is the rule of natural justice. You have to be heard before any disciplinary action is taken against you. So we will see, we will look carefully to see what the court thinks about this. I am certain that Mayor and his lawyers will move to the courts for this matter. The GDF has always been apolitical. From the Burnham era right down, the GDF has operated apolitical. When there was a transition of power, when there was a transition of power in 1992, the army didn't resist, the army did nothing. The army always operated in an apolitical manner. But these people under, I believe, there is a new person there that the PPP has placed that is heading the army now. I don't know if he is apolitical, because the actions of the army now to remove or to dismiss the mayor seems very political. And so they have politicized the police force. And now they're moving to politicize the army. Moving to politicize the army. These are dangerous developments. Extremely dangerous developments in this country. On screen there, you see every person that stand up to these people, especially when you're Indo-Guyanese or you're perceived to be supporters of APNU. This is what happens to you. You have the popular juice vendor charged over some TikTok video where he wasn't pleased about something with the top cup. They're abusing the law to get to people, to victimize people. We're becoming a police state, and that is an element of the apartheid system. It is an element, is the way how the government operates in an apartheid system. They use the law against you. They use the systems against you. Whether it's the court system, the police system, whichever system, they use it against you. If you go for cash grant, you can get it. The case of Tamika Clark, the DPP dismissed it. So the police officers, Romana and them, can arrest a lawyer illegally. And then you say that, it was in the line of doing their duties, while they were doing their duties. So it is okay for the police to knowingly, illegally, a senior officer, this is not a mistake. This is a senior officer of the force with years of experience. He has been a prosecutor before. I know him personally. And so this is an experienced officer. Experienced officer. I don't believe we have time to get into the issue. Well, maybe we can take this. We can take this last issue, but I really tried to flesh out what has been transpiring, especially as it relates to the mayor and how it fits in the context of an apartheid state, an emerging apartheid state. And so we will have to continue on this topic. I had on the cards tonight to discuss the award of contracts. When I get to the next program, I hope that I can break it down to you guys. But I just want to touch on this last topic quickly before Sherrod comes on. There was an incident today, early in the early mornings at the residence of the president at the State House, where um, someone would have asked a guard to see the president. He wanted the president, and he allegedly brandished a knife and dealt some stabs to unfortunately to the officer on guard there, severely injuring that officer. Our thoughts and prayers uh, is going out to that officer and his family. This is a tough time to be experiencing that, to have to go through that during Christmas time. You want to huddle around the Christmas tree or around the table and have a meal together. And unfortunately, this young man has been seriously injured by that lone person that would have attacked him, and then he would have grabbed a gun, a firearm from another officer, and began to open fire at those officers at State House. It tells, while, look, we condemn this act at the highest level. The APNU AFC, the PNCR, condemns this act to its fullest. I saw today they had a number of these PPP little outlets already trying to incense the public and have all kind of stupid statements being made. Stupid statements being made. It would be interesting to know what comes out of the investigation. I noticed that the government is now saying that they will ask Interpol to do some level of investigation. They want a background on this fellow. We're told that he is Nigerian. So it puzzles me why a Nigerian national would go there to ask for the president and then attack the security guard. Well, a lot of strange things happen under this PPP government. A lot of strange things happen under this PPP government. And they always say that they're going to have an investigation, and then nothing happens. Nothing happens. They didn't ask Interpol to investigate paper shorts being shot not far from there, but they're now running to Interpol. I agree that it is a serious matter. I don't think that the Ministry of Home Affairs has dealt with it in a proper way. It exposes the incompetence of the Ministry of Home Affairs to protect the president and his family. Some guy can easily walk up to the gate and take down a security an officer there and take away a firearm and open fire. So, folks, I just want to close and leave it there. We're out of time. Sharon is coming up. And so I want to thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your engagement tonight. I trust that you will be back next week, same time, same place, 6:30 on this very channel, where we can continue this conversation of an emerging apartheid state and all the other atrocities that has been occurring under the PPP. So I must say good night to you folks. God bless and stay safe.